Hello and welcome to Sip Sip Hooray, the podcast for people who like wine, want to know more about it, and hear the stories behind the label. They say every great bottle of wine tells a story about the people who make it and the place where it is grown. And that spirit of storytelling is the driving force behind Folktale Winery in Monterey County. We are excited to share the story of Folktale and its winemaker, David Baird, with you. We are, of course, the two Marys who like to eat, drink, and be merry. I'm Mary Babbitt.
And I'm Mary Orland. Folktale is a wine destination in the picturesque Carmel Valley. You'll have a great experience visiting here thanks to a beautiful patio, great food, and a welcoming hospitality. David's been the winemaker here since day one, partnering with Greg on a local mover and shaker in the wine and restaurant world. David brings his own touch to the wine program here and has some exciting projects, including a wine aged below the waves in Monterey Bay with a connection to the local delicacy abalone. David, we're so excited to be here. Welcome to Sip Sip Hooray.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me on today.
We are really glad to meet you and then share your story with our listeners. As we said, as we came in today, it's a Monday and you've got tons of people out on the patio. People are eating, people are in the tasting room. We've got a little gift shop. And I noticed a lot of the outdoor tables, people have these flights of wine that they're trying. So this is really cool. It's a beautiful spot where people are really enjoying your wine.
Yeah, we get to take advantage of the beautiful scenery around us and let people come and experience all the wines that we get to create here. And it's just such a magical pairing. Food, wine, and atmosphere is perfect.
Nice. And the flights allow them to try a lot of the different varietals you're doing.
That's right. We've got a number of different flights, kind of depending on people's appetite for kind of experiential wines. We've got kind of your standard wine flights of the core wines that we produce here, but also flights that lets you kind of explore and kind of go on your own adventure of tasting and trying different new wines.
Yeah, so we know Folktale is focused on stories, but we want to know your story and how you came to be at Folktale.
Sure. Look, I started my journey many, many years ago, it seems. I think this will be my 17th harvest coming up. I caught the wine bug when I was maybe 15. In Europe, traveling with my family, and I had a bottle of Condrieu at a family's cellar, and I caught the wine bug from there. I really kind of started diving in as soon as I got to college. I declared that as my major, and I stayed in the Central Coast, kind of experiencing all that this region has to offer. I've worked at some of the most amazing wineries and seen a lot of places, and I'm proud to call Carmel home and get to create wines here from Monterey County.
What is it? Oh, sorry, Mary.
I remember the first time I ever tasted Condrieu, which is the Viognier from the northern Rhone Valley. To this day, it's my favorite.
It's a mind blower, huh?
Yeah.
So it's really
When
cool
you get the right
that
bottle, it's
connection.
really special.
It really is.
Well, I was going to ask you what it is. You said you caught the wine bug. So what is it about wine making that is magical for you and that still interests you today? Would you say 17 years later?
Something like that. Yeah, I guess that ages me a little bit, but I think it's the kind of the blending of the art, the craft of winemaking, kind of that creative outlet, along with the kind of the science of understanding why things happen and kind of the fermentation process. Again, paired with being able to be in nature, be in amazing vineyards at sunrise. Get to speak with people who are growing these amazing grapes and just kind of be able to kind of combine all of those things together. It's really special.
And you're drawn to the great outdoors. You just got back from a hiking trip through the Yosemeti Valley.
I did, yeah. 72 miles in 7 days was no joke, but proud to be
That's no
proud
stroll.
to have made it back, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a casual.
You're not wearing
weekend
flip-flops
camping.
on that one.
No flip-flops, yeah. Plenty of blisters to prove it.
That is a really cool thing to do. And had you done a lot of backpacking before?
When I was a kid, sure. It's been a number of years since I've backpacked, so to kind of jump back in full force like that was a bit much, but well worth the views.
Tell me this. When you're backpacking, the weight of your pack is so key. I mean, people cut their toothbrushes in half to conserve weight in a backpack. So did you pack any wine? Did you splurge?
No, I really wanted to, especially the first day when you maybe don't have to carry something the rest of the way out. But kind of the thought of having to pack out the glass bottle was a bit too much for me.
Yeah.
Weight was a huge factor, and it was just not really practical to bring wine on that trip.
You're just going to have to come up with some packaging to make your wines portable for backpacking.
Trust me, on the trail,
biodegradable.
You got plenty to think about. And I even thought about like some sort of dehydrated wine that you can kind of boil some water, then chill it back down and make some dehydrated wine.
That'd be something.
Yeah.
Work on it. Get on it.
There you go. Maybe next time we chat, we'll be talking about that.
All right. Well, let's get back to Folktale and how you wound up here, and what you're enjoying about being here.
Yeah, look, Folktale just really gives me an amazing opportunity to have full creative freedom. I get to kind of make whatever wines that are inspiring us. We taste a lot of wines, whether it's local producers as well as international producers. See what's being produced, and we try to kind of have our own take on different things. Folktale is an amazing place that has evolved since day one. You alluded to our beginning in 2015, and this will be our 8th vintage. I wouldn't have never imagined where we'd be today 8 years ago, but the journey has led us to this point. And today we're producing around 26 wines annually. We're bringing in about 24 different grape varieties from this amazing region, and we get to kind of have that ability to make some pretty special wines in that.
Well, people who've been in Carmel Valley years ago may remember this winery in its previous life was called Chateau Julien. And Mary B. and I were here with our TV show the first year we got started, and we filmed a segment here for the show. We were doing a whole thing on Carmel Valley. I think I read that you had also visited here when it was Chateau Julien.
Great memory, yeah. So I grew up here in this beautiful valley. And when I caught that wine bug, I wanted to be sure of this life decision, right? You're marrying your career in a sense, right? You got to make sure it's the right fit. So I wanted to do a job shadow, and I picked the local winery, which was Chateau Julien. So I was probably 16 years old. I was in this building, toured around for the whole day. I spoke with the staff, some of who I work with today, who have been here since then. And I get to experience this place in its heyday. And now look at where we're at. We're sitting in the same space, and I'm the winemaker here. It's a pretty cool full circle.
It really is, especially 16 years old. You were ambitious. I mean, I've got a 16-year-old playing Xbox at home right now, probably.
Well, we didn't have Xbox back then, but.
So tell me how the winery has evolved from Julien to Folktale.
Yeah, so I mean, aside from the space, we really share very different kind of trajectories or directives of what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to be expressive and let this kind of terroir, this region, speak for itself. When we kind of took over this facility, we brought in all brand new equipment. We focus on small batch fermentations. We do as much native fermentation, minimal intervention, wine processing as possible. And that was a bit of a departure from the previous occupant. They're very successful in their own right, but we kind of had our own vision of what we wanted to create and craft in this area. And we've kind of been in that directive sense. So the wines that we crafted year one were made in a style that we, again, tweak every year. I think it's really critical that as a winemaker, you continue to taste your wines, taste other people's wines, and kind of see how things evolve. And make changes as you see fit. And we've done plenty of that. I think as a winemaker, it's really important for you to identify things that you can improve upon and then make those critical changes as the years goes on. Because if you don't, you'll kind of be set in your ways. And I think it's really important to continue to push yourself and evolve.
Well, you've got a selection of wines from Folktale for us to try.
I certainly do.
And let's get started with one. Les Mistral is, I think, a wine that Folktale has become well known for.
Yeah, so Le Mistral is a brand that was started in the about mid-1990s by none other than Joseph Phelps. And Joseph Phelps wanted to create a brand that kind of spoke to the amazing kind of weather patterns that we have in the Salinas Valley. The Mistral winds, or the Le Mistral winds, are winds that blow down the Rhone Valley every afternoon in the summer. And they bring cool, kind of sometimes cloudy weather down every afternoon and cool the vines down. So it goes from a high of maybe 90 degrees down to about 55 every night. And Joseph Phelps traveled to this region, saw the same weather patterns, and thought that he wanted to create a wine that was of similar nature to the Rhone Valley. When he kind of set off on this, he made a Grenache Syrah blend, just like a Southern Rhone blend might be. And that brand kind of went in and out of different hands before settling in Greg On's hands, the owner of Folktale. And we've taken this brand and just wanted to feature the Rhone grape varieties. And we've also expanded the portfolio. So now we have this wine that we're tasting today. This is our 2020 White Witch. It's a white Rhone blend consisting of Viognier, Grenache Blanc, Roussanne, and Marsanne. And we want to be representative of like what those white Rhone blends tend to be. But I also wanted to make a wine that was fresh and vibrant.
It is, and it's very floral, and it's got a lot of that apricot peach stem character fruit. It's also got some really great minerality.
And that's the terroir. That's our region here. Yeah. It really is. We grow these grapes on some extremely sandy and cobblestone soils, and it really kind of promotes that minerality and really features that aromatic component that you're talking about.
It's nice. It lingers. It's really lovely.
Yeah. Find cobblestones in the Southern Rhone.
It's very similar in many ways, and that's again why Mr. Phelps kind of decided that. But it really does an incredible job.
Delicious. I could sip this all day on the patio.
This has got to be a popular one downstairs.
It certainly is, and we can do that after the podcast too. Yeah. No, this is our second vintage of this wine, and this was something that on a whim we just wanted to make a white Rhone blend, and so in 19 we set off to do that, and it's our second iteration. The first year sold out very quickly, and this one is going to be selling out quickly as well. But it's become one of our guests' favorite wines very quickly.
It's a good witch, not a bad witch.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Why the name White Witch?
Right. So again, Greg wanted to have a name that kind of spoke to our region. So the Mistral are the winds from the Rhone, and Greg wanted a name, a moniker for our region. So the White Witch is his term for the fog that rolls in every afternoon and lingers until the morning. Sure. So that's our White Witch.
And for people who haven't been here, wind is one of the defining features of this wine growing region. In fact, when we got out of the car here, the winds had already picked up, and it's only noon.
That's right. And again, I hate to make people jealous, but it doesn't get terribly hot here. So the minute it starts getting above 80 degrees here in Carmel Valley, things start cooling back down.
So lovely.
It's
very temperate. Do you find that the fact that other regions are really heating up and dealing with how do we change our canopies to protect our grapes, do you feel like you're in kind of a sweet spot?
For the most part, I would say that. We're not immune to climate change at all. I do think since the Pacific Ocean is our prevailing kind of dominant factor for the weather, that unless that changes drastically or like very quickly, then it's not going to affect us quite as much. But we're seeing a lot less rainfall in the winter, and that has lasting effects for the growing region, the whole growing season rather. So although it's not affecting our like highs in the day, it does affect the growing season as a whole, and that has become a very important factor. Compound that with the fires that we've seen the last few years locally. We have very visible effects of climate change, but maybe just in different ways than other regions further inland.
And I know that you've got a Sangiovese here at the estate vineyards, and you farm that organically?
We do, yeah. We farm this, our about 5-acre Sangiovese site organically. We also like to work with vineyard managers and vineyard owners who farm organically, if not sustainably. So all of the grapes that we bring into Folktale, we're only maybe farming about 5 to 10% ourselves, and the rest we source out in the region. That enables us to find some of the best grapes, the best sites in this amazing area. But we like to work with vineyard managers who are farming in a way that represents our ethos and who we are.
Tell me more about that space of your ethos. You guys you mentioned being concerned about climate change, and I guess I'm asking about, do you guys try to lessen your footprint and all of that?
Absolutely. We do everything we can. And there's a lot of things that we do that consumers don't get to see. We want to work with, it really starts in the vineyards. We want to work with the vineyard managers who are treating the soil, the land, the people who farm that in an ecological and sustainable way. We like to, do what we can here at Folktale to be as sustainable as possible, reducing our water usage, recycling everything we possibly can. I think we're really focused on the future, not so much the moment. We want our kids to be able to be here and enjoy this amazing region. And we wouldn't be doing our part if we were focused on the here and now.
Absolutely. Good for you. Good for you.
So you've also been able to really put your stamp on the wines here and create some interesting wines. So let's talk about the second wine that we've got on the table here.
Wonderful. So this is a wine that we've called the Lion for Real. And the one that we're going to be tasting today is a 5-year non-vintage Solera. So that's a mouthful, and I'm happy to explain that.
You're going to need to.
We're going to need to.
You lost me.
So let's start with an orange wine. An orange wine is a skin fermented white wine. So for most white wine production, we are pressing the white skins immediately and producing a fermenting juice, say Chardonnay. To make an orange wine, you take those same Chardonnay grapes and you ferment them with the skins. And the color from the skins comes into the bottle and it creates an orange colored wine.
So it's almost like you're fermenting like you would a red wine.
100%.
Yeah,
it's exactly right. So we don't like to harm oranges, and we'll be very clear in that.
There's
Right?
no oranges in the winemaking process here.
So to create a non-vintage is just essentially, a blend of multiple vintages. And we've taken the term Solera, which is traditionally like a racking system that you put your current vintage in the top barrel and you bottle out of the bottom barrel. And there's a lot of oxidative process in there.
It's very common in the sherry region.
Exactly. It's also a bit too laissez-faire of a winemaking style that I want to be part of. So I like to have a little bit more control, but also have a little bit more of an old world feel. So we started making orange wine in 2017. It was one of these things that I just did on a whim and didn't even tell Greg, our owner, that we were up to this. I tasted the wine and wasn't pleased with it, so we didn't bottle that. What I didn't love is the palate was just a little too abrasive, a little too tannic in its infancy. Aromatically, it was incredible. And so we kept that around and made some in 18. And I decided to blend 17 and 18 together, and that wine was incredible. So what I decided to do is I barreled half of it back down into the cellar, and half of it was bottled for consumers. We then brought in our 19 and did the same thing, blended the 19 with the 17-18 blend. I barreled down half and I bottled the other half. So I've continued to do this over the last few years. What we're tasting today is now the maybe the fourth version of that. It's the 5-year Solera. So this is combining 5 different vintages.
That is so cool. I've never heard anyone describe a process like that. And maybe this happens, but I just was never told about it. But this is really cool that where you use you use some of last year's and some of this year's and you get something special.
Yeah. Well, it's how they make sherry.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
who knew?
But outside of the sherry region, you really don't find many people using the Solera method.
Right. And it's not something that I had, tasted sherry and thought, man, how do we kind of bring this to like the wine world, right? It was just something that kind of came to us as saying, well, the solution to this problem seems to be blending. I really wanted to continue that evolution. And I think it's also really fun, and maybe just a piece of me just wanted to kind of continue the fun process. And wanting a piece of every vintage along the way to be part of this wine. So this is your 5-year. There's a little bit of, there's 5 years in this 5 glass. Different vintages in this. And so cool. In this, we've got Chardonnay, Viognier, Grenache Blanc, and Riesling. And they all make up very different components every year, just depending on what we're fermenting.
It's super floral, but then the acidity is really amazing. And I wish people could see the bottle. The wine is a little bit cloudy, and it's not orange. It's more of a, how would you describe it, David?
Honeysuckle. I mean, like a very kind of honey kind of color. And yeah, I think, this is one of those wines, we're very minimalistic, and this is really pushing that boundary. if someone comes and wants to taste this bottle of wine, they're coming to experience a really amazing bottle of wine. And I want them to taste that in its entirety. Wines can be cloudy, and there's nothing to be afraid of. That's natural sediment. And by taking that sediment out, you're taking a bit of the character, a bit of the soul out of that wine. That being said, I think it's very appropriate to filter wines when you need to, especially, bright white wines. But I really wanted to let the kind of expressiveness to be featured here. So it's an unfined, unfiltered wine.
Very cool. And the name, The Lion for Real?
You got to talk to Greg, the owner, on that one. It's a Ginsberg, Allen Ginsberg poem called The Lion for Real.
Oh, wow.
And he took inspiration from that poem after tasting this bottle of wine.
And the label art is very cool. Please describe it.
Yeah, so the label is it's an orange lion, and there's a gentleman with I don't know, maybe some sort of medieval guy in there, and he's on the lion's back, and it's again, maybe it's up for interpretation as to kind of exactly what's going on, but it's kind of an expressive bottle for this.
That's a really great way to describe this wine, expressive.
Well, and I love that you mentioned right off the bat that you, in this position, you're given the freedom to explore and to do things you want to do and to take creative chances. And it sounds like you and Greg have a great relationship in that way. Greg on.
We certainly do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'd consider him a good friend. It's one thing, being the winemaker for someone, but it's also just an extra level, to be a good friend of someone's, just like that. So, I think that we're able to have this trust going back and forth, that he knows that I won't go too far out of bounds, but yet we like to push the envelope a little bit and not just take status quo.
That's what's so fun about wine is so many people are kind of getting out of the traditional varietals and techniques, and all respect for that, of course. But it's really fun to see, especially since craft beers and spirits are very creative. It's fun to see that happening now in wine too.
Yeah, I think people want that. They want to step out of their comfort zone and explore a bit. And I think Folktale gives them an opportunity to kind of taste things that they don't get to see on a regular basis at the grocery store or local bottle shop. Mm-hmm. We started kind of pushing the boundaries a bit a few years ago, and I think that it's very kind of on trend right now for the wineries to be doing that. And it's been kind of fun to be on the forefront of that exploration. Yeah,
I think as a consumer, this is a product that you can learn about. There's a lot to learn with wine, and not that you need to be a wine aficionado to enjoy the process of learning it. It just are enjoying it.
Right.
It's a lovely beverage to just drink. But there's a lot, if you're curious, there's a lot to know about wine.
That's right. And, there's nothing wrong with something like Chardonnay, for example. Mm-hmm. We all love Chardonnay. Right. And for the right occasion, right meal, it fits perfectly. Mm-hmm. But there's little to be discovered if you've had Chardonnay and know enough about it. And there's a lot to kind of explore in something like this orange wine. It's just a really cool process to kind of get to hear and taste.
Absolutely. Love it.
But you do have a more traditional wine here that you're pouring right now.
We do, yeah. This is our 2019 The Creator. It's a Pinot Noir that we created, really kind of highlighting the amazing region that we're in today, which honestly produces some of the best Pinot Noir in the world, in my opinion.
I won't argue with that.
And what's nice just from looking at it, it's a lighter color. There's so many Pinots right now that are way over extracted. Dark, and is that really Pinot?
Yeah.
We really pride ourselves on making balanced wines. A lot of the Pinot vineyards that I source from, I'm often the first winemaker to be in there picking grapes. We pick very early on to preserve the natural acidity. I want a wine that is lower in alcohol and does express itself, maybe a little bit lighter on its feet, a little bit more kind of floral. The aroma on a wine, especially Pinot Noir, is critical. And I don't want a wine that's overly extracted and have to add water in the cellar just to kind of balance things out. So
it's a very delicate aroma though. Mm-hmm. It's really very pretty, I would say.
It's really tasty too.
We've also, in the 2018 vintage, moving on, we've started introducing a lot more stem inclusion. So we do a lot of whole cluster fermentation whenever possible. This wine is no exception.
Tell us why you do that. What does that bring to a wine?
Yeah, so whole cluster is, when we're fermenting, the cluster together in its entirety. It does a lot of things. Not only are you doing a bit of carbonic maceration at the bottom of that bin, there's limited oxygen at the bottom, and the berries will start to kind of ferment within rather than introducing yeast, right? So we're getting a little bit of some more floral components. We're also getting a lot of savory qualities, a lot of kind of more robustness. I find that in its infancy, the whole cluster can be a bit abrasive when I'm tasting things just a month or two after fermentation. But 6 months, a year later, the wine starts singing. And they don't sing quite as well without that stem inclusion, in my opinion.
I think that's such a fascinating part about this winemaking process is that when that first taste is not, you have to trust that, this is going to turn into something good. And to know that it's going to do that.
Yeah, and I think, my first few years as a winemaker, it's really challenging to kind of understand what things are going to do as they continue to evolve. And that, I think, is part of the skill of making wine and being successful is trusting. Sitting back, trusting, and just knowing that the process will happen, but you have to be patient. Wine is not a technical field. It's a very old kind of, very, crafty kind of process, and we have to just trust the process.
How do you know what a wine is singing to you?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, huh? Look, I think a wine. You shouldn't find a point to a wine. It should be a very rounded kind of process when you're tasting a wine. Nothing should be more kind of pointy than another. I want the nose to kind of slowly evolve as I taste the wine. Everything should kind of be in harmony. And I think when everything is in harmony and the flavors just evolve down your tongue and just everything kind of just like flows well together. And I guess that's what I mean when I say singing.
That's really fun. I love that.
It is, absolutely. And so I mentioned earlier in my intro that you made a wine that you had aging a little bit in the Monterey Bay. So tell us about that.
Of course. Yeah. Happy to share about that. That was a really fun maybe COVID experience, COVID adventure that we got to participate in. 2020, we were always looking to do new and fun different things. And I had read an article about some wine that was, pulled out of the Pacific down in Argentina, or off the coast of Chile, rather. And it was aged 100 feet underwater, some Malbec that they had created. I thought it was such a cool idea, but I just kind of thought about our environment, our place, and our cold Pacific. Here in Monterey Bay, our temperature in the bay ranges from maybe 51 to 58 degrees. It's very cold. I don't recommend swimming.
Don't they call it the big refrigerator?
It's something like that. It's cold.
You need a wetsuit.
It's not fun. Yeah.
With a hood and booties.
For sure, yeah. So look, that's a great temperature, great cellar temperature. So I wanted to figure out a way of kind of marrying everything. In 2020, we took our estate Sangiovese grown just a few hundred yards from where we're at today and made a sparkling wine. So we made a base wine here in the cellar. And then as soon as we added our tirage, we bottled that and we took it right to the Monterey Bay. We had done some experiments with some empty bottles, some dummies. Okay. We used stainless steel crown caps and we wax dipped every bottle. We did about 25 cases. So it was about 300 bottles or so, or 150 bottles or so. And we sunk them in the Monterey Bay.
Wait, what did you put them in something or just sunk them? They weren't like floating.
Yeah, with the tide, I guess I should clarify, right? Yeah.
Just toss it in.
If you see one today, please send it home. That's right. Yeah.
Wash up on the shore.
That's right. Yeah. No, what we did is we partnered with the Monterey Abalone Company, and they have been farming abalone under the Monterey Bay Pier for decades. So we worked with them. We talked to them, and they had a couple extra abalone cages and some space under the pier. So we filled 3 cages, slowly dropped them under the bay, and sunk them at around 40 feet under the pier. We did this in early November of 2020, right before the winter storms came through. So not only was the ocean at a great temperature, low 50s, but we were also anticipating storms that we get on the Pacific every winter.
And you wanted that?
Absolutely.
Why?
So for the secondary fermentation, we want that sediment to be in solution.
Oh, so you wanted it to be
I did.
Oh,
So
sure.
that's really the difference between being in a cold cellar and being in the ocean. Sure, you can have dark environments in a cold temperature, but what you don't get in a cellar is movement.
Is that like a natural rizzling process?
That's what
Right?
I'm calling it. Yeah. So we wanted the waves. We wanted that kind of the tidal ebb and flow and the storms to kind of kick those cages around a little bit. And it did just that. We actually
so cool.
covered each bottle in a PVC tube that we cut about 12 inches, wrapped each PVC tube and bottle in a net, and then that was filled in the cages. So we didn't want bottles breaking or clanking or spilling into the ocean. We didn't lose any wine.
Was there any concern about ocean water getting into?
Well, that's what we did some testing. Yeah, but again,
You did the wax seal, though, right?
We did, but I think again, part of being in a sparkling is it's got positive pressure. So even if there was any infiltration of the crown cap, if anything, wine would come out, nothing come in,
Right,
Because of
gotcha.
that positive pressure in the bottle.
Did you find any critters making their home on the?
We
You
did, yeah. So there was a lot of like crustaceans that like lived on the glass. Every bottle is different that we pulled out. There were no labels at that time, so every bottle has a different kind of very unique kind of crustacean element on it. And then there were some live critters on there as well. And we worked with some biologists as we pulled the bottles up to make sure that there were any species that were within the bottles, that we put those guys back in the ocean in an ecological way. And we did so very quickly just to kind of minimize that impact. So it honestly was a pretty cool process.
Did it taste good? How did it taste?
It was amazing. It was one of our highest scoring wines and got rave reviews. But since we didn't make much,
all gone.
we don't have much to share. And we also, I will say that there's a lot of positives in this, but there's also an element that we got our hands slapped a little bit. And
Coastal Commission?
we should have asked permission from the Coastal Commission.
No, you just go ahead and do it, then ask for
We'll have to
permission
edit this
later.
part out. Yeah. No. What we did is we decided to just kind of work with the abalone company, and since we were working with biologists and they were biologists themselves, we figured it was a pretty safe thing to do. But the Coastal Commission didn't agree. So after hearing about the project, they basically told us to never do it again. We can ask for permission, but they'll never grant it.
Oh.
So it's not going to happen again.
So it was a
Man,
It was
what a
really cool.
story.
unicorn wine.
It was a unicorn. And look, I understand their perspective and I respect everything that they do for this amazing region. And so I have nothing but great things to say about them. It is unfortunate that we can't, but I also understand that if this were to happen, perhaps another company would want to do it on a larger scale.
Right.
Perhaps some other, maybe a biologist wasn't part of that. And
there goes the ocean.
for sure. And the whole ocean is, yeah.
And instead of growing abalone, they'll be aging wine.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Well, I
So.
love that, pioneering, super adventurous spirit. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And what a fun story.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
It's a great segue into the other two bottles that are on the table with us.
Yeah. So, part of being a winemaker is always wanting to kind of step out of your comfort zone a little bit. And for me, it's I've been wanting to for years and years have a brand of my own where I can be truly expressive, truly kind of crafting my own wines in the style that I want to make. Honestly, they're not too dissimilar from what I'm making here at Folktale, but I have stepped out of my element a little bit. In front of us, we've got two wines. One is a Pet Nat of Pinot Meunier, and another bottle is a blend of Pinot Meunier, Pinot Gris, and Pinot Noir.
Wait, say that again.
It's a blend of three wines.
Yeah, but okay, Pinot Meunier. I wasn't expecting the white wine in there.
Yeah, so it's a blend of red and white. When you blend that into a red wine, it's not going to be a pink. It's a red colored wine, but I'm using three varieties. One of those being a white wine.
Now, are you co-fermenting? And this is a little geeky. Sorry, everybody.
So it's not a co-ferment.
Remember, some of us don't know what you're talking about.
Co-ferment means some wines are co-fermented. It's very common in the northern Rhone region, where you see Syrah co-fermented with Viognier. a little like 98% Syrah and maybe 2% Viognier, depending on the winery. So.
And we do that here as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, but so this is just straight blending.
It is.
Okay.
It's a little too challenging to pick all of these varieties within the same few days, let's say. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, this is producing 3 individual wines and then blending them together to create this wine, which is roughly a third, with some kind of minor tweaks in there.
It's a beautiful color.
It smells great too.
Very vibrant.
The Pinot Noir is from our local Carmel Valley. It's a whole cluster fermented Pinot Noir. The Pinot Meunier fermented about 50% on its stems, and the Pinot Gris actually let soak on its skins for about 4 days before pressing that and then continuing that fermentation.
Okay, Pinot Meunier. Not many people know what that is either.
No,
it is it's one of the 3 grape varieties in Champagne blends.
That's correct. That's right. Exactly. So, Pinot Meunier is often overlooked. It's maybe not a wine that you see on a store shelf ever, but it's often wine that you've like you said, had in a bottle of sparkling. I wanted to kind of bring that to the table with Pinot Noir, very classic wine, and Pinot Gris, very light and refreshing. So the pet nat is of Pinot Meunier, and it's a really cool expressive wine that really features this fun variety in a true sparkling but ancestral method. And then I've got one more wine that's still aging in the cellar. It's just a Pinot Noir, a whole cluster Pinot Noir that I've got coming out too. So
and tell us
this
about the
blend
name
is
and
great.
the label.
So my brand is called Common Thread, and honestly, I sat on a name for years trying to figure out what worked for me. I wanted a brand that spoke about myself, and I've got 2 amazing boys. I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old. They're amazing. They're my world, right? And my boys and I share a common thread, a similarity. We all have a line down one of our hands, our left hand. It's called a single palmar crease. And it's pretty uncommon for most of the population. It's a line that just goes like straight across our hands. If you look at your hands as you're listening, you probably have 2 lines that diverge, one going up and one going down. On my left hand and my boys on our left hands, it's a line that goes straight across. It's called a single palmar crease. Look, I'm not a palm reader, so I didn't really look at the step 2.
How'd you figure that out?
60 years ago, my first son, Colin, was born. And about 6 months into his life, he was diagnosed with Down syndrome. And one of the classic kind of monikers of Down syndrome is this single palmar crease. It's pretty uncommon for kind of the general population, but fairly common for individuals with chromosomal differences. So the common thread of my boys and I is we have this. It's also a common similarity between other individuals who have chromosomal differences. And so what I wanted to do is create a wine that enabled me to have even more creative freedom than I have in my day job, but also provide an outlet for me to give back. And so what I want to do with this Common Thread brand is donate a percentage of my proceeds to Special Olympics, an organization that my son's a little too young to participate in today. But when he turns 8, I hope that he'll be an active athlete and be able to participate and have a little bit more fun in this kind of that community.
I can't tell you how much I love that notion and that spirit behind all of this. And
so Common Thread is not in the marketplace yet.
No, and again, being a personal project, it's really hard to create a brand and a packaging. So with all the supply chain issues, I hope to have labels on my bottles in about a month's time, and I'll release them shortly thereafter. I'll have a website up in the next couple of weeks as well.
So by the time this airs, it could already be in the market.
That's right. Yep, that's right. I've got 2 wines today and a third coming out. I hope to continue this project for the foreseeable future. We talked about the label as well. I've got 3 hands. It's a tracing of my boys and I. But it's just the top half of our hand, basically from that line up. It's just the top of our hands. They almost look like little crowns, but those are our hands as
That's
drawn.
so sweet. You sound like such a good dad. I'm just so impressed by that.
Kids are pretty fun.
They really are.
It's just so personal, and I think that's really cool. Because I think people really do love to hear the stories about people who are making the wine. And sure, it's great to know the background and any training and your experiences in the wine world, but to be able to tie in family and something really meaningful to you, I think resonates with people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so fun.
It is.
And this blend is delicious.
Thank you.
Sharing that one with us.
Thank
Really
you.
good.
Of course,
So
yeah.
fun. So when people come to Folktale, talk about the experience they'll have here.
Yeah, so we've got amazing tasting area we call the wine garden. And our wine garden, as you alluded to before, is this outdoor space. It's beautiful. Carmel Valley is known for its incredible weather. It's sunny just about every day of the year, it seems. And so you can come experience this beautiful scenery. We've got mountains behind us you get to look at as you taste our wines. We've got a full menu as well. So we've got a culinary team on site that produces some of the most amazing food in this valley. Fresh pizzas, salads, all sorts of other creative dishes, including your charcuterie and cheese boards that you can expect at a winery.
Which is so cool because not a lot of wineries are able to provide a full menu like that. That's really neat.
We're
Full
very
kitchen.
lucky to be able to do that. So really you get the full experience. We have food, we've obviously got the wine, and we're producing wine here as well. So you can also come visit and experience kind of the whole property, see the vines, taste everything, and even maybe see some barrels if you're lucky enough.
Oh, I love that.
And it's just a great place to come and hang out.
Yeah, it is. And we do have music most afternoons around 2:30 as well. So on our website, you can check it out. There's a calendar of events. And I believe most days of the week that we've got music playing now as well. So really, it's just an amazing place to come experience everything and just relax and just to get to hang out.
I'm guessing just back from your backpacking trip, you won't be relaxing much. You're going to get right back into the work. What kind of stuff are you doing right now?
Well, we are actually in the process of moving our cellar from one part of this property to another. We've got a room that was kind of our house for all of our barrels. We're currently in the process of moving all of our tanks into that space and housing everything under one roof. So we're right in the middle of that in anticipation of harvest as well, about 6 weeks out. It's very busy here, and we're kind of finalizing all of our creative ideas for this next vintage to be able to have a solid plan in place for the 2 months of hectic craziness that we call harvest.
Anything new on the horizon you can share with us?
We've got a couple blends ideas that we're coming up with this year. I kind of want to keep some of these ideas a bit under wraps right now.
Keep it a mystery.
We tend to do lots of different creative things, and kind of depending on how things turn out, we might blend things differently. But we've got lots of creative ways to kind of spice things up a little bit.
Good for you. All right, so when you're not working and you're hanging out with your boys, favorite thing to do? You guys go down to the beach, you go to the park. What do you do with your guys?
Yeah, the kids love the park, right? They love slides, all that sorts of stuff. I just got them squirt guns, and that's been a fun summer activity. Sometimes it gets a little too rowdy with the squirt guns, but that's always fun. So just a lot of horsing around and hanging out is kind of what we're up to.
Good for you.
And what do you do to relax and kind of take a break from all of it?
I'm an avid gardener. I've got about 1,000 square feet that I get to garden right now at home, and it's amazing. I just pulled a zucchini out that I guess I missed before the trip.
Did it get huge? I do this all the time.
It's about 18 inches long. It's massive. I've got pumpkins that are already done. And again, we're filming this in mid-July, so it's a bit early for these sorts of things. But and I've got about 40 tomato plants that I'm going to start harvesting soon too. So
I love it.
It's fun.
I love to garden as well. And I found with my kids, growing cherry tomatoes was really helpful because they would want to come hang out with me in the garden and eat the cherry tomatoes rather than like a big old,
That's a great idea. Yeah. My boys have liked peas, but I think we'll be on to tomatoes soon. So that's a great idea. I like that.
Well, David Baird, this has been such a treat to get to know you and hear your story and learn about the wines you're making here at Folktale. Really, really impressive. These are what we got to taste today was just beautiful.
Absolutely. And we encourage everybody to come visit. So how can folks find Folktale wines?
Yeah, so you can check us out on our website. That's probably the easiest thing to do, folktalewinery.com. There you can shop. You can ship wines to you depending on what state you're at. We ship to about 35 different states. We'd love to have you come visit here in person. Otherwise, we do have some distribution in some key markets in the U.S. So you could ask your local bottle shop and they might be able to point you in the right direction. If you can't find us from there, you can always shoot us an email. I think info@folktalewinery would be a great way to do so. Happy to help you out.
The story at Folktale continues, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Yeah, your next chapter.
There you go. Looking forward to it.
But thank you so much, and sip, sip, hooray.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Well, that's going to do it for our show today. Thank you for listening to Sip Sip Hooray podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show because we sure love bringing it to you. And if you do like it, we hope you share Sip Sip Hooray with your friends.
So go to whatever platform you listen to our podcast on. Be sure to review us, rate us. It helps other people find their way to Sip Sip Hooray. And you can also subscribe to our pod so you don't miss another episode when it drops.
If you're looking for past episodes of Sip Sip Hooray, you can find them on our website. It's sipsiphooraypodcast.com.
Be sure to follow us also on social media. We are at Sip Sip Hooray Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And on Twitter, we are at Sip Sip Hooray, the number 1. Be sure to DM us with any ideas, questions, or just leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
We are, of course, the two Marys, and we do like to eat, drink, and be merry. So, Mary Orland, cheers to you and Sip Sip Hooray.
Cheers, Mary Babbitt. Sip Sip Hooray.